Hello, everybody. It has been a long time since I've made a video. In probably like 3 or 4 months. I don't know how long it's been. Um, at the time of recording this video, the last video that I've uploaded on my channel, I think was my game against, oh God, what was the name of the team? The Velvet Room, in season 2 of our Turn 17 Rocks Draft League. At the end of that video, if you had watched it, I don't know. If you haven't watched it, then don't, I don't know, don't take it too much to heart here. But uh, yeah, I said that some unfortunate things happened with my family. You can see more about that in that video if you care to know. How am I right now? I mean, I'm okay. I'm feeling uh, better, doing my own thing now. Um, and it's still going through the motions, the process. I'm being very vague about things. I don't know why. um, but yeah, I felt like making another video today. Not Pokemon related, even though I have a bunch of Clefable and Clefairy, Cleffa dancing at the bottom of the screen here. Um, but that kind of brings me into my next topic here, my new channel goals. What I've realized is that a lot of my favorite content creators on YouTube are the types of people who kind of just make a video whenever they feel like they have something to say. Um, like if I'm gonna shout anybody out, I like Emp Lemon, I like Uncle Dane. I don't even play Team Fortress 2. I don't know why I love Uncle Dane videos so much. And they upload very infrequently compared to many other YouTubers, but their videos are always very high quality and they always have a lot to say. I feel the passion in that, and I think that's probably kind of what I want to do. We are going to be playing a new draft league in the not so distant future. And I may make videos on that still, but I may be doing something a little bit different than what I've done in the past with them. I'm not sure. I don't necessarily want to spend a ton of time on doing something just for the sake of doing it. I think I'd rather just do things because I want to do them. Um, that all being said, I'm starting a new Discord. I've got the link there. I'll try to remember to put it in the description as well. If you happen to be watching this video and want to join that Discord, uh, feel free to. What I'm planning to do with it mostly is just to be a forum for discussion for things that I like, mostly video games and anime. There's a heavy emphasis on anime, honestly. And for people to come together, play games, maybe announce if I'm going to any events. Uh, and that's actually another segue here to what I actually want to talk about with this video. I went to a convention recently. See if I can move this. Yes, there we go. And it was the first time that I hosted a panel at an anime convention. Um, and the panel of choice here is Four Corners. So the idea with Four Corners, I don't know if any of you have played it, maybe in elementary school, maybe where I had first played it actually was in my AP US history class junior year of high school. Um, and the idea with this game is that you present a statement and people have to decide how much they agree or disagree with the statement, and then state like their case for why they feel that way. When I played it in high school, it was a lot of times it was presented as just a forum to discuss like history topics, and there was maybe a slight element of debate to it. Um, for the sake of my panel, and I think I have a rules slide here that kind of shows what we wanted from this, was for people to share their opinions, but not necessarily to like win an argument about it. Um, and which is great because I think anime is very broad. A lot of people have seen, experienced a lot of different things, and that's gonna change their perception a little bit. Um, and it's not necessarily, I don't think, fair to assume that that there's only one right answer for this because things are not always universal when you have such a broad topic to discuss. So that's what it was. And also, you're at a panel with a bunch of other people. The point is to have fun, and I personally don't think it's that fun to state my true thoughts and then have somebody tell me about how stupid I am. I mean, if it's online, it's one thing. There's a layer of detachment to it, and uh, like we don't have to face each other and see that. But like when you're in person, it's a whole different animal, and I just don't necessarily want. I didn't want to subject other people to that, so I tried to make that very clear is that we're not really here to argue against each other. We're just here to share some ideas. And with that in mind, I want to show you guys some of the statements that I came up with and give my personal thoughts about them because I did not do too much of giving my own thoughts. I gave a couple thoughts um, as it went along, but I tried to let my audience members have the floor, do their thing, um, not sway the discussion too much one way or the other. So the first of the statements I had here was shonen action anime are improved with romantic subplots. Um, why did I pick this one first? Well, I figured that a lot of people probably have seen at least one, probably more than one shonen action anime, shonen battle, maybe you might call it. Um, I don't necessarily think there's a great genre descriptor for these types of shows, but this is the closest I could get to evoking that sort of feeling. Um, why 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 talk about this though? The romance aspect of these. I think that there are a lot of cases in these shows, as they're shown and they're marketed towards young boys, that they're trying to basically present, uh, for some reason or another, a uh, romantic subplot, and but my personal belief on why they would do this is I think that it's a desire of many young boys, especially boys who are into manga and anime, to have a sort of relationship that if we are projecting ourselves onto people like Midoriya and Eren Yeager and uh, Inuyasha, that we would like to see ourselves as these people. I think it's not so far-fetched that we would want to like have that love aspect to it as well. I I hate to uh, what do I want to say here? Hate, I guess, on my own uh, community here, but you know, a lot of us who watch a lot of anime probably are not extremely uh, successful in romantic exploits. So to be able to project ourselves onto characters who might be is maybe a good feeling. I know that's probably not entirely the reason. I'm sure that there's like marketability. If you go and buy some Inuyasha merchandise, uh, Kogome is going to be on it. Why? Because she's a beautiful character, and you're, yeah, I mean, she just looks nice. So it it could just be as simple as that. Um, but yeah, nevertheless, a lot of these shows do try it. Um, so how much do I agree with this statement? or disagree with it. I'd probably go with slightly agree, actually. Um, there, there's definitely an element of it depends on the writing, right? Um, when you have a show that's focused primarily on showing action scenes, and it constructs its story around building to the action scenes, a lot of times the action is really good because that's the focus of the show. And the romance subplots are secondary to that, so they're not always given the same weight, meaning that they sometimes flounder. But I think that the romantic subplot is often a good vehicle for character development. Um, let's take My Hero Academia for an example, just because I know a lot of people have seen it. And this dynamic between Deku and Uraraka is quite well explored, for better or for worse. Uh, I think at the beginning of the show, the beginning of the story, Deku was a very awkward and hard to approach character. He was like, extremely unconfident in himself. Um, and Uraraka, in a sense, sparks some confidence in him. She's very supportive of him. She was the damsel in distress that caused him to prove himself as a hero on the stage where it mattered the most, which was the I forget what they call it, the entrance exam. Um, and that there would be a slightly deeper connection between the two of them. It seemed pretty natural. Now, does it have to be romantic? No, not necessarily. They could just be good friends, and the show could have went that angle, but it didn't. It became a little deeper. It became a romantic thing, and I think that the impetus of it was actually pretty well done. Is it the best romance? No, but was it horrible? Did it feel really bad to see it start? Also, no. I thought it felt pretty good actually. Now, as the series goes on, I'll say that I've finished season 5, so I'm not exactly caught up on the anime and I haven't read any of the manga. It does feel like Uraraka's character has been flanderized in a sense, like that her only character trait nowadays is that she has a super deep crush on Deku, and they tried to do like a role reversal where Deku kind of had a crush on Uraraka, very not very deep, is sort of superficial at the beginning. It's totally believable that a high school freshman boy would meet a attractive freshman girl. Don't read into that too much. I'm not trying to say that I'm attracted to Uraraka, but like conventionally, she seems like she's drawn to be cute, right? Um, that. Sorry, I lost my train of thought there for a second. Uh, if I was not a lazy editor, I'd probably edit back to this, but I am a lazy editor, and so. Um, oh, right, that he is awkward about his crush with Uraraka, but then his story kind of goes somewhere else. Uh, when we come back to Uraraka, there's kind of a comedy to it, that there's that role reversal that now she's the one who has a crush on him and is shy about it. But I think where it kind of goes wrong for my liking is that there's not much else to her character. Like we see Deku contend with new issues. His character is changing, and great because he's the protagonist. Like you would expect to see that. And she's more of a secondary character, so you don't necessarily expect to see her go through uh, tons of changes and have tons of different conflicts to contend with, but I would hope that she had more dimension to her character than just being in love with Deku, and that's it. Um, One of the people at my panel pointed out that this romance, it kind of fails, and what's indicative of that is how popular it is to ship Deku with other characters like Bakugo. Which I don't necessarily, I'm not like super big onto that shipping stuff, but I did think that was an interesting point, because it does highlight how, in a sense, dissatisfied people are with the show's kind of implying to be the romantic subplot. However, I still fall on the agree side because I think that it was good as a vehicle for character development for Deku. And I do think that My Hero is one of the not as good examples of this. Attack on Titan to me feels a bit better. I feel weird about it in a different way. I'm not a huge fan of the childhood friend uh, to lovers trope, um, especially not when the characters are so close that they're like basically siblings. Um, but I do, I do understand that having that deep a connection between Mikasa and Eren, especially how Mikasa feels about that relationship, was really, really important for the major conflicts of the later seasons. I'm not going to get too much into it because I don't want to spoil it, but I think that you could not have the same conclusion for Attack on Titan uh, if there wasn't such a deep romantic undertone to this relationship. Um, that's all I'll say about that. And Inuyasha, I'll be honest, I haven't watched it, so can't really tell you how Kagome and Inuyasha's relationship goes. But yeah, I was very happy with the discussion on this one. I think there were only like maybe 7 people in the room at the time, which it felt a little bad because it's like, oh, I want a bunch of people to be able to talk, but it was kind of nice to have a more intimate setting where everybody is sitting pretty close and everybody can kind of speak their mind on this without too much fear of not anybody having a chance to participate. I will say that about halfway through the panel, the room started to fill up a little more, and we got a lot more opinions, which was really nice. I thought that was interesting, and it was still paced pretty well. I was very happy with how this turned out. But sorry to get sidetracked. Let's go on to the next point. Uh, this statement is good animation is the most important element of an anime. So I have some GIFs here that show examples of some shows whose animation is quite commonly cited as the reason that people feel whatever way they do about the show. So Demon Slayer, it's no secret that people love Demon Slayer animation, that it's one of the prettiest looking shows out there. Though it's also pretty contentious because a lot of people are not very into the story and not very into the characters. I can't speak too much on why that is the case because I have yet to see Demon Slayer. Part of the reason why I've yet to see Demon Slayer is because a lot of people have told me that they don't like the story, and I'm thinking to myself, why would I jump into a show that I didn't have interest in watching before after somebody told me that it has a not very good story? Like, that just doesn't really make a lot of sense. But I imagine that uh, there being consensus on how good the animation is has to contribute to how popular the show is, right? Jujutsu Kaisen, this is a show that I am caught up with, at least as far as the anime is concerned. It has really good animation. The fight scenes, the action scenes in Jujutsu Kaisen are probably the best I've seen in any show. Or yeah, well, at least that I've seen, right? But I think there are other elements to it that make it a good show. I think the choreography of the fights is a kind of an underrated aspect of it. Think about an anime fight in your mind, like Dragon Ball, right? Uh, who's gonna fight Frieza, right? Well, let's start with Krillin, and Krillin does his whole thing for an episode or two, and then he gets jobbed. And then it's like, okay, now let's have Gohan fight him. And then Gohan does his thing for like an episode or two, and then he gets jobbed. And then it's like, okay, let's have Vegeta fight him. And Vegeta does his thing for an episode or two, and then he gets jobbed. And then Goku arrives. And then Goku and Frieza do their thing for ever. Like it takes a long time. It's like what, almost not 20 episodes. It's insane. And even in that, there are phases to that fight where it's like, I'm going to power up to my second transformation. I'm going to power up to my third transformation. And then my final form, and then I'm going to 100% power, and then Goku's going Super Saiyan, and blah blah blah. Like they take a lot of time to escalate the fight, and I understand why they do that, right? Because it builds the tension for the fight. Jujutsu Kaisen is not quite like that. If it's in Jujutsu Kaisen, if it's Itadori and Fushiguro up against an enemy spirit, then both of them are jumping in the fight. They're both going to actively fight the thing, which makes sense, right? If you were in a fight with your friend against a common enemy, would you let the common enemy beat up on your friend and then finish and then you go in? No, you would jump in and run the fade on them, right? And how the choreography for those multi-man fights, those 2-on-1s goes, it's incredible. I think any fight that has Toto in it is extremely interesting to watch because of how Toto's curse technique changes the dynamics of the fight, because he repositions every piece. It's like watching a chess game where pieces switch order all the time, and you have to stay on your toes to keep yourself defended. That's really cool. But yes, the animation is gorgeous in this show, and I'm a fan of the story. I've heard other people criticize it. I wonder how much of that is just, well, JJK is popular, therefore I want to criticize it, which may also be true for Demon Slayer, frankly. But I can't. I don't know for sure because I haven't watched it. But yeah. Finally, we have Berserk 2016 up in the middle, and this is a show that is infamous for its bad animation. Would I say the animation is bad? I mean, it's definitely different because it's all or mostly 3D CG, and it was at a time when 3D CG was not quite as good looking as it is today. And even still, some people feel weird about 3D CG because it's just not what we're kind of used to. I do think that the scenes look very awkward, like this. To me, like the characters, they look like Christmas ornaments moving around, and it's like uncanny, and that kind of takes me out of it. And in an action type of show like Berserk, when the action scenes are uncanny and not not that enjoyable to watch. I'm not really inclined to like it, even if the story is really good. And yes, the Berserk story is really good, at least in my opinion. Um, so with that in mind, do I think that good animation is the most important element of an anime? I actually would probably agree. I don't know how strongly. I guess for the sake of doing something different, because I know everybody wants to have a more nuanced opinion, so everybody tends towards slightly. I'm gonna say strongly, and the reason why I will say strongly is because I cannot think of a show that I like that I would say has objectively bad animation. My favorite show is Code Geass, and a lot of people are not a fan of the character designs because they're very tall and slim. Um, but I mean, for 2006, 2008, taking that into account, the animation is like fine. I don't have a problem with how the mecha battles look. I don't have a problem with like the character motions and the expressions and all of that. Um, and other shows that I've watched, like with really beautiful animation, it just like hits. I can't think of a show that that I really do like that I think has bad animation. I don't know, maybe a Tale of Memories because it's like a sort of obscure visual novel adaptation, so it's like not like a super duper high budget type of thing, and I just really love the story of it, so that's why I like it. But yeah, once again, it's like yeah. And then think about this: if you're gonna watch a show today, like something that's coming out right now, hell, even something that came out a long time ago, and you look at that first episode and you're like, "This is ugly." Are you? Do you? Are you gonna watch it? Like, are you actually gonna watch it, even if the story is good? I don't know. Animation is the first impression, and first impressions mean a lot, right? I can't speak on like how much I'm going to like the story based on just one episode, right? So, uh, whether I like that or not is kind of up in the air. But the animation, I can kind of figure that out within an episode. Yeah, sometimes studios will put tons and tons of effort into the first episode to make it look really good, and then they get like lazy later on. Um, I've definitely seen that before. Engage kiss, sorry. Uh, but that all being said, like the animation tends to be somewhat consistent throughout and easy to judge within an episode. And I think that's probably what would pull you in my in my mind. Uh, and like yeah, if the story is extremely good and the animation is really bad, then why don't you just like read the thing that it was adapted from, like the manga or the light novel or whatever. Um, that's always an alternative if you really, really want to experience the story. And that's what a lot of people suggest for Berserk, right? A lot of people say, like, oh, if you loved 1997 Berserk, then read the manga. They don't say go watch the show, even though it's the same story. And even though it's like the story is good in their opinion, even the anime adaptation, they just say read the manga, right? Um, Yeah, so I guess I'll say strongly agree. I do see the point for like, I don't know, story's great because if you have a crap story, then well, like it's gonna be a crap anime. Animation can't carry it, but I do think that it's like because it hits that first impression so hard, that it is probably the most important element. All right, the next one. There are classic anime that every anime fan should watch, and I have some that probably would be considered classics. Um, I don't know uh, if they're necessarily the top four classics of all time. I mean, Evangelion is probably in contention for that. Depending on what you mean by classic, you could even argue something that came out very recently, like Frieren is a classic. Like it's an instant classic. Um, and I am kind of vague about what classic means on purpose. Um, I interpret this to mean like a classic anime is like a show that is so monumental in a sense, like either because it uh like reforms its genre, or it's the perfection of that type of story, or it's revolutionary in just some way that it becomes iconic, which is another vague term. Yeah. I don't necessarily think that there's a time frame on classics. I don't necessarily think that there's a popularity aspect to it, although I do think that it's hard to consider an unpopular show to be classic. Um, but yeah, of these four shows, I have watched the first 40 episodes of Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. I'm still in the process of watching it, and I'm going to finish it probably in the not too distant future. Um, the rest of them, I have not seen any of them. Like, not even an episode, not even, well, maybe a clip or two here and there, but that's it. Um, so do I think that you should watch the classics? Uh, I'm going to say that this is something that my opinion has changed on a bit. Uh, Before anime was particularly mainstream, and I'm not saying that I was around as an anime fan before it was like when it was like almost like taboo to watch anime. It never was actually taboo to watch anime, but like, you know, it it was extremely niche at one point in time. I do think at that time it was important to watch classics. Why? Because anime fandom, or fandom in general, is sort of predicated on common interest and discussion. And if you're an anime fan and I'm an anime fan and we haven't watched any of the same shows, then how are we supposed to have a fruitful or deep discussion about this? Um, right? So like back in the day when like you had to get VHSs, or yeah, I know, right? Or you had to like torrent on really old websites because there weren't streaming services that just had anime right at your fingertips. Um, if you were gonna spend the time to watch a show, I think it should be either because you were really interested in what the story was going to be like, either because maybe you read the manga or you've heard how it went, or because you knew somebody else who has watched it. And regardless, kind of regardless of whether you're interested or not, if you want to be able to talk about anime, you got to watch shows that other people are watching. And that's like these older shows. Like that's why I'm using a lot of these as examples, because a lot of these were kind of in that era or right as that era was ending, maybe in the case of Full Metal Alchemist. Um, you, yeah, because, yeah, I don't know. It's just how are you gonna discuss if we haven't watched the same shows? Is basically what I'm coming back to. Nowadays, though, with all these streaming services and like anime is kind of cool. Or at least a lot of kids are growing up watching it. You can find it on a streaming service. You can find it on Netflix. I think even like Cowboy Bebop and Death Note, to my knowledge, are just available to watch on Netflix. The other two, I'm not sure, but maybe. But even then, it's like things that are coming out today. You can find them on Crunchyroll. You can find them on Verve. You can find them on less legal streaming platforms that I'm not endorsing. Wink, wink. Um, that yeah, and chances are, if you go if you go to a convention, uh, you're if you've watched more than 10 shows, you probably have seen something that somebody at that convention has also watched. Like we're living in an era where it is not easy to uh, watch something that is like extremely unique. Now, you can totally find things that are extremely unique. I've watched a show called Glamorous Heroes. I guarantee anybody who's listening to this video who hasn't watched it with me in a Discord server together has not heard of that. But like a lot of the other shows I've watched, like if I went to a convention, I could probably find somebody else who has heard of it at least. Um, Even the ones that are not very popular, like A Tale of Memories, like um, Pompo the Cinephile. There's a movie example they're not super mainstream, but yeah, I mean, people probably have heard of them at least at a big ass convention. At this convention that I was at, it was quite small, so maybe not that, but like I've seen Attack on Titan. Come on, everybody's seen that. And you might say, well, then that's a classic. That then you're saying if you want to be a part of the discussion, you have to watch Attack on Titan. Therefore, you agree. But I'm like, no. Like, you could have also watched Spy Family. You could have also watched ReZero. You could have also watched I don't know what's another example. Monogatari, whatever. Like, there's not any one of these shows that you should necessarily watch. Just watching like any anime at this point, especially things that are coming out currently, you're gonna be able to be a part of the conversation. So I guess I'm gonna say nowadays strongly disagree, just for the sake of I don't think you can point at one show and say like everybody should watch this show anymore. Like, this doesn't really make much sense. Now, am I saying don't watch the classics, don't watch Cowboy Bebop, don't watch Death Note? No. If you're interested in those, then watch them. But like me, I haven't watched Death Note. I haven't felt the need to. I don't think that it's conducive. Like, I don't think it will hinder my ability to relate with other anime fans if that I haven't watched Death Note or that I haven't watched One Piece. Although there are definitely some One Piece fans who will make you feel like you're not tapped in. I don't know. I don't be like that. Please don't be like that. I hate that. But and sorry to that One Piece catches a stray here. Tons of other popular anime have fans that are like that as well. But yeah, like I feel like I can relate to other anime fans without having watched any one particular show. So that's basically the point that I feel like I wanted to get across. And I think that most of the people who were at my panel kind of had a similar sentiment, that it's like, yeah, there are these classic shows like Cowboy Bebop that are great. But should you have to watch it? Like, if you're not that, even like, especially if you're not that interested in what type of story it is, no, because you force yourself to watch it, you won't like it. I think that's almost verbatim what somebody in my panel said. And yeah, I would agree with that sentiment as well. Let's go on to the next one, which is a slightly related topic. Every anime fan should make a point to watch at least one show a season. So on this list, I've got per my recording, we're in winter 2020, or not, sorry, we're in spring 2024. Jeez, I'm really bad at talking, huh? I picked every season that has ended at this point, and the most popular show from that season that wasn't a sequel to something else. So yeah, I mean JJK was more popular than Zom 100, of course. It was the most popular show that came out last year. But Zom 100 as a season 1 original to this year show, like it was the most popular of that season. Now, of these shows, which ones have I watched? I have watched the entirety of Zom 100, Freerun, and Solo Leveling. I have watched one episode of Oshinoko. Maybe get around to watching more of it at some later point. But in any case, uh, I did enjoy Zom 100 and Freerun a lot. I think I gave Zom 100 either a 7 or 8 out of 10, and I gave Freerun a 9. Um, Solo Leveling, I mean, it's not, I don't know, it's not really for me. I think I gave it like a 5. It was like, it was okay. Um, but like, I don't know, I feel like there's so many shows that it feels like Solo Leveling is ripping off in a sense. Like, it feels similar to Sword Art Online. But also like shows that ripped off Solo Leveling that just happened to get an adaptation before it that makes it feel like it's not really doing anything that revolutionary, when maybe in reality, like when the manhwa was written, maybe it was. I know it's like basically the progenitor of the low fantasy genre. And I don't mean to discredit it for that. It's just that it's not really my cup of tea. I'm more of an isekai kind of guy, you know? I want to watch some trash. I don't want to watch some mid. Sorry. um, don't take that too seriously. So you would think that if I've kind of have been making a point to watch one show a season, I'm sure if I go back to spring 2023 that there is a show that I've like watched to completion in that season. It's just didn't happen to be Oshinoko. Let me actually check that on my anime list here. I will say my anime list a lot. If you don't know what it is, it's a website, myanimelist.net. I'm not necessarily endorsing it as like you have to like engage with this website, but it's just makes it easy to track what shows I've watched and also what shows are popular with other weebs. So, yeah. Yeah, in spring 2023, I've watched to completion Hell's Paradise and Mashal. So, I did watch something from that season. I could even go back to the season before Winter. I probably have seen something in that season. Toma-chan is a Girl I watched. Vinland Saga Season 2 I watched, which I definitely would recommend. Maybe I might have watched something else. I don't know. Oh, Dan Machi I watched. In any case, yeah, I've been doing a pretty decent job of staying up to date with like this current stuff. Why do I do that? Well, that kind of comes into the discussion part. I don't think it's necessary that you watch shows that are coming out right now to be able to relate and discuss with anime fans, but I do think that shows that are coming out right now do hold a little bit more weight in the conversation than older shows. Reason being that, well, more new people are watching it, so there's more new discussion. And also that a lot of these old shows, like, what more is there to say about Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, right? Like, a lot of the takes and the discussion and the analysis has already been done in a lot of cases. Not to say that you can't find something new to talk about, or that retreading old ground is not worth anything, but it's not doesn't tend to be as interesting as all this new stuff. Plus, you know, I do think it feels nice when people are talking about things as they're coming out. Like the hype around Freerun, for example, like week to week when it was coming out, it was really nice to watch. There were tons of other shows that were like that. Chainsaw Man, Spy Family. And these were also shows that I watched as they were coming out in their season. Um, and yeah, I do think it is nice to be a part of that. And if you're not staying up to date with your seasonal anime, then that's an element of this picture, this puzzle that you're not going to be able to engage with. I'm not saying you have to engage with that. I'm not even saying that it's necessarily worthwhile to engage in that, but it is a piece of the puzzle that I do kind of enjoy. So I actually would say I slightly agree. Um, I don't think you should necessarily have to watch whatever's the most popular show in the season. I'm also not saying that you should force yourself to watch a show in a season if you're just not interested. Like this season, for example, the top like 3 according to Mal in terms of popularity are all like sequels. It's like Konosuba season 3, That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime season 3, um, probably some romance anime season 3. I don't know. And it's like the like first like original season 1 uh, that you'll find in terms of popularity is Kaiju number 8. And like for me, I'm not as interested in the premise of that. Like, not that I have anything against the show. It's just like I don't know the plot synopsis didn't really like catch my eye. Like, oh, I need to watch this. Whereas like Freerun, it's like, oh, I love fantasy shows. So I should watch this. And Zom 100 is like, oh, it's a comedy show about zombies, and I like zombie movies, so I should watch this. And Solo Leveling was my friend said, hey, you gotta check this trash out because he hates the he hates the manhwa. So I said, okay, I'll watch it just so that I can understand when you're talking trash on it. Do I think do I hate it like he does? No, but I also haven't read the whole manhwa, so I don't know. Maybe I will learn to hate it. I don't know. If you're a fan of Solo Leveling, don't let what I'm saying disparage your what you like. I like some trash as well. I've given some quite trashy shows high ratings. I gave uh, 100 Girlfriends 10 out of 10. Uh, and like I stand by that. I believe it is a 10 out of 10 for my personal taste. But I also understand that not a lot of people are into like harem anime or are gonna find the humor that good because it's really raunchy. But in any case, um, yeah, what I say, I slightly agree. Yeah, um, just because it's important to me to uh, be a part of these like episode by episode conversations, kind of buy into this hype. It's part of what's fun about watching anime to me. And I'm not saying that I will do that every season and that I need that to be to enjoy my time watching anime, but it is something that I enjoy, and I would encourage other people to try it out. If there's a seasonal show, something that is airing right now that you think you might like, I would say try to stay up to date with it and see if that's something that you like doing. And if you really did like that experience, then go like try to seek out things that are coming out in the next season that you could do that for. Um, I understand that some people they just like to binge it; they don't want to wait. So you'll go back and watch old things and binge that, and then when this season is done and it's all aired, you'll binge you'll binge it when it's all out, and that's totally fine. That's very valid. You can do that. Um, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And if that's what you like to do, then you maybe would feel differently about that, and I totally understand. But I think I've kind of said my piece on that. I like those two questions back to back because it kind of led into a discussion about like, is it important that anime fans like in general try to watch the same shows? Like if we go to a convention together, is it important that like almost everybody in the convention has like watched one really popular show, so that we like when we see a bunch of people cosplaying as those characters, when we see panelists talking about those, when we like when they're screening, maybe it, I don't know if that maybe they do that at your conventions. I don't think they did that at this convention that I was at, but that we like the majority of us will be able to enjoy that, and I tend to, I'm a little ambivalent on that, um, because it's like I think conventions should be open and open-minded, and other spaces where there are a bunch of anime fans, um, and be accommodating to people who maybe like some kind of niche out there things, um, and there should be spaces for people like that, and that don't have to feel like you have to be watching JJK or Chainsaw Man or One Piece or Demon Slayer or whatever, to enjoy yourself. But I do also think it is really nice when you can like relate to people. It's like, oh, everybody in this room has watched JJK. Okay, then we could have a discussion about JJK involving everybody in this room. That could be sick. But I tend to value the former of what I said, that we're more inclusive of niche things than the latter. Um, so I guess maybe, I don't know, maybe I'd fall a little bit on the disagree side, but I also do, I don't know, I kind of value that it, at the very least, that like two people have watched the same thing so that we can talk about it, right? Like I was sitting next to a girl, a complete stranger, at well, I assume a girl. I don't know actually. I did not ask for their pronouns, so sorry if I'm wrong about that. Uh, but sitting next to them, um, and like they pulled out their Switch in between panels because I was just chilling in the room. I was gonna attend the next panel, and I assumed they were as well. They pulled out their Switch and they were playing Fire Emblem Engage, and I was like, "Oh, you're a Fire Emblem fan? Like what Fire Emblem games do you like?" And then we had a conversation about that, and that was cool. And if I had never played Fire Emblem, then maybe I wouldn't have had that interaction. I would have made a friend there. And anime can be a lot the same way, where it's like, oh, you liked Sora no Method? Sorry, Blandy. um, then we can have a discussion about it. There you go. I think I'm kind of beating a dead horse here, so I'll move on. My anime list, it comes up again because I just can't talk about anime without talking about my anime list because I'm a freak. Uh, my anime list or AniList or whatever sort of website that you want to use that has ratings to it, IMDb maybe, I don't know. The ratings there matter. So at the top, the dark mode stuff up there, that's my anime list. That's how they present their top anime series or the highest rated anime series, and the most popular ones. You can see the subtitles there. I hope you'll know. But maybe you're watching this kind of podcast format. You're not looking at the screen, which I'll go ahead and read some of them out. We have number one highest rated anime according to my anime list is Frieren. It's got a 9.39, which is fucking mind-boggling. Sorry for the language, but like that is insane. It's like basically like a 9.4. Wow. Full Metal Alchemist, which was the GOAT for a long time, it's a 9.09. Steins Gate, not too far behind it, at a 907. Gintama 2015 is at a 906, and Attack on Titan Season 3 Part 2 is a 905. The most popular anime, according to my anime list, are Attack on Titan, Death Note, Full Metal Alchemist, One Punch Man, and Sword Art Online. AniList is similar. There are more Gintama fans on AnyList, I guess, and Fruits Baskets also gets the nod for being a top 5 rated anime there. There are not as many, I guess, Full Metal Alchemist glazers, because it's only got a 90%, which would be a 9 out of 10 on Mal, as opposed to basically a 9.1. Then the most popular, we see My Hero Academia and Demon Slayer crack the top 5 most popular. Oh, as well as Jujutsu Kaisen versus My Anime List. What that kind of tells me is that it probably younger fans, or it's either younger fans use AnyList or AnyList is a newer website. I'm not sure which of those is true. But yeah, it is interesting to me the fact that like Sword Art Online and One Punch Man are not in the top 5 most popular for AnyList, whereas My Hero and Demon Slayer are. I mean, I kind of think that nowadays you would expect more people to be familiar with My Hero and Demon Slayer just because they're ultra popular and current, whereas, Sword Art Online, the first season of that came out in, what, 2012? Like, yes, I think there's still Sword Art Online media being made. Like, the Progressive season 2 just came out not too long ago. But like, I would guess that there are probably not a lot of kids going back and saying, let me watch something that is over 10 years old. Oh my goodness, Sword Art Online is over 10 years old. I feel old now. Yeah. So, anyway, um, I think most of the people at the panel disagreed with this. I don't think anybody said that they were on the agree side. I think the only thing somebody said kind of in support of these ratings, it's like, well, if you go on My Anime List and you see something is rated like an 8 out of 10 or higher, then the chances are that there is a pretty good quality to that show. And if you're into that type of story, then you'll probably like it. Which, yeah, I mean, I think that's probably true, right? You look at Attack on Titan. Are you into these shonen action series? If you do like those things, then the chances are you'll probably like Attack on Titan. Now, would you give it an 8.5, a 9, a 10, like a lot of these users would suggest? No, maybe not. Maybe you give it a 7, maybe you give it a 6. Maybe you like 6. 6 to me is I liked it more than I didn't like it. And yeah, but like the chances were that you'd like it. And sometimes you might not like it. And like there might be just a couple story beats, a couple characters that just don't float your boat, right? And totally fine if that's the case, but you probably were going to have more success with Attack on Titan sitting at around an 8.5 than you were with what? Who knows? In another world, my smartphone sitting at a 6.5. At least that's how I feel, and that's the vibe I was getting from that response. I don't know. Maybe I'm putting words in that person's mouth. But yeah, a lot of people said, nah, it doesn't really matter because like the show that I like is the GOAT, right? And at the very least, the shows that I like are the ones that matter the most to me. And like just because a bunch of other people like them, doesn't really mean anything. Or because like maybe a bunch of other people don't like them, doesn't mean anything. Shows that I haven't watched or shows that I don't like, I don't know, maybe you don't like Fruits Basket. I'm using Fruits Basket because I feel like that would be the least contentious to say that for, because I feel like there's not a ton of Fruits Basket fans. I might be wrong about that, and I might be maybe opening myself up to some hate there. Maybe you don't like Fruits Baskets though, and it's like, I don't care if AnyList says it's 90%. I didn't like it. So, Yeah, which is, yeah, you're entitled to your own opinion, and your opinion should matter to you. I mean, if you're a thoughtful individual, like you're a smart person, then your opinions probably are have a good reason. Maybe it's not a good reason for some in the context of somebody else's mind, but it's good enough. If it's good enough for you, then there you go. Another thing that we pointed out here is, like, you think about most popular anime, and if I like covered up the screen here, and or if I didn't just talk about it all, what would you think is the most popular anime? Like, some of the ones that would come to my mind are Dragon Ball. Like, I see so many people who would be wearing a Dragon Ball shirt, or uh, would be doing TikToks with Dragon Ball stuff, or One Piece. You know, it's like it's very popular. There are a lot of people I know who have never watched an anime, but they've watched One Piece, which is insane, right? It's 1,000 episodes, and they watched all of it. That's insane. Or Naruto, that's another one. And none of those are on this list. I think Dragon Ball is like maybe the 30th most popular show on my anime list. And like, I just don't think that that's actually representative of how many people have watched it. I would imagine in the West, Dragon Ball probably is the most popular anime. But how many Dragon Ball viewers do you think have a Mal? I would imagine probably not even 50%. There are tons of people who have probably watched Dragon Ball and think it's peak, but they don't have my anime list because either they have never heard of it, or they they just watch Dragon Ball. That's the only anime they've watched, or they may have watched that and like Naruto, or like, you know, less than 10 anime. And it's like, why bother making a my anime list if you have barely watched any anime, right? I wouldn't fault you for not doing that, or not feeling the need to do that or whatever. Yeah. So there's definitely a bit of skew here. There's some bias by omission. Um, if you polled literally everybody who's ever watched an anime, and you said you're being put on a census for people who have watched this show, and I need your rating of it, I think you would see a different list here. Yeah, I mean, like, you know, Free Ren is probably a pretty good representation of that, because I imagine most people who have watched Free Ren are probably like active anime fans who probably have a Mal or an Annie list. So I would guess probably in the ballpark at 80% of people who have watched Free Ren probably put it on Mal, or I don't know. I guess maybe you could have got your boyfriend or girlfriend or friend or whatever to watch it with you, and that's just the first anime they've ever seen. So maybe they don't have a Mal, or maybe they don't have one yet. Um, but yeah, like, you know, a lot of these shows that are popular on here, I imagine it's because like like the weeb community is speaking here, and also when I say the weeb community, I also mean like Western anime fans in particular, because this is an English website made, I presume, in America. Um, do you think that Japanese anime fans are putting their 2 cents in, rating on Mal? No, they're probably using another website. Or maybe they don't use a website at all. I don't know. I really don't know. I imagine they probably do have an equivalent website, and they're probably using that. Um, like, what do they think? Maybe they don't think, maybe they might not think Full Metal Alchemist is the GOAT. I don't know. There's definitely a lot of nuance there. For me, do I think they matter? Not really. I'd probably be slightly disagree. I do think, yeah, I'm not likely to watch like, if I was interested in the plot synopsis of a show, and then I went on Mal and I saw it had a 6.4, I might not, I might be more hesitant to watch it. Um, but Uh, yeah, I don't know. If I saw a clip and it hooked me, I don't care what the rating is. I would watch it. Or if I love Dan Machi, for example, and I've watched and I've kept up with it through 4 seasons, and the fifth season's coming out. I don't care what people rated all the other seasons or what people think about it. I'm gonna watch the fifth season. You know, like yeah, I don't think Dan Machi has as great a ratings as a lot of the other shows I've watched. I think that they sit around like the low to mid sevens. Maybe the most recent season was like an 8. Um, but like I like it, so I'm gonna keep watching it. Now, I might be a part of the problem because I tend to rate lower than a lot of the people. I did a little bit of math there, and it seems like on average, I rate shows about like 1.2 points lower than well the average person. Um, so I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm hating too much. I don't know. But in any case, I'll move on. Um, Said probably enough about that. Video games are the weakest source material to adapt into anime. Now, when I asked this question, I kind of figured that most people would say, yeah, that's probably right. But it seemed like there was a, quite a lot of disagreement with this statement. A lot of people were citing things like Pokemon, right? Like Pokemon is extremely popular as an anime, especially for children. There are a lot of children out there who probably don't have a game console, but they've watched the Pokemon anime, at least a part of it. And like to say that it was weak adapting those games for when like all these children love it and like adults still love it. A lot of adults still watch Pokemon. Uh, yeah, I mean that there you go. It's got to be great, right? Um, and I've got some examples on here. Fate. I mean, Fate is really popular, and Fate. I mean, originally is a visual novel, and for the sake of argument, I'm considering visual novels to be video games, um, because they're interactive, and like you play them, you buy them from gaming websites. So just for the yeah, I would say they are. Um, Clannad, it was originally a visual novel, and it's one of the most popular, or maybe not most popular, but it's one of the highest rated romance anime on, according to my anime list. And Danganronpa is, well, it's Danganronpa. um, there are a lot of other ones like Persona and stuff. But yeah, a lot of people did say, there are a lot of weak video game adaptations, and whether it might not necessarily be because the story or the anime is like bad, but like common example was Persona. You know, Persona is a game that it's fun to play. You get to take your time, interact with the characters, build the social links, and like you play out all the fights yourself. Now, when you take out that interactivity and you just do the fights, and a lot of times they cut out a lot of the social links. You're not gonna get uh, Ren. Is that what they call the Persona 5 protagonist in the anime? I'm gonna call him Joker. You're not gonna get Joker hanging out with Torinosuke talking about politics because we don't got time for that. It's gonna, you want a 100 episode Persona anime? Forget that. Let's just get to the freaking palace bosses and all that. And it's like you're missing content, and you're also not getting to engage with it at the pace that you want to engage with it. Um, Danganronpa is definitely another example of this. One of the parts of Danganronpa that makes the game pretty fun is that you can hang out with the other students. You can find out what gifts they like, get them things that they like, and see all that dialogue. You get a deeper understanding of each of the characters, but you have 12 or 13 or whatever episode, however many episodes the animation had, you're not gonna be able to fit all that stuff in there. You're just gonna be you're gonna hit all the story beats for the chapters, you know? It's it's almost like speedrunning, and speedrunning Danganronpa is abysmal. You're holding down the control key and doing nothing. You're like you're not reading anything. You're not getting any of the story. And I'm not saying that the animation is as bad as that, but like you're not getting any side content. You're not getting to pace the game, and for a mystery game like this, you're not getting to pace the game out the way you want. There were times where I have the game running, like right before the trial starts, and I'm just sitting there thinking to myself, can I figure this out? Like, do I know who the killer is right now and how they did it? Um, and like taking that time was important, and it made me enjoy the game. The anime is not going to waste that time. Like, what? We're not going to sit for 5 minutes and ask the audience to try to figure it out for themselves here. We're getting on with it. And yeah, so the pacing can be not so good. However, yeah, most people disagreed because they said, it depends on what it is, because it's like there are definitely a lot of and this is a good point here. There are a lot of anime adaptations of video games where people know the anime more than they know the video game, right? Fate. If I ask the average idiot, or sorry, what is Fate? They say, oh, it's an anime. Well, I mean, originally it's a visual novel, but yeah. I mean, the people know the anime. Probably more people have watched the anime than played the visual novel. Clanad might be in the same boat. Um, what's another Pokemon? Well, I don't know about Pokemon, but definitely like Yu-Gi-Oh is another one. How many people do you think have watched the Yu-Gi-Oh anime in any capacity versus how many people do you think play the card game? Like, I remember as a kid getting the Yu-Gi-Oh cards, but I didn't freaking play it. I didn't understand how to do that. But when I watched Yugi go demon mode on some dude in the Battle City arc, that was entertaining. I loved that as a kid. Um, so yeah, I mean, I totally get where people are coming from there. But sort of my question is, if video games aren't the weakest source material to adapt from, then what is? Is it manga? That'd be a really insane take, because of how many anime are adapted from manga. Um, you're gonna tell me that? Yeah, I mean, it's probably a lot of the weakest ones do come from manga because there just are more. But like, there's so many good ones, or like perceived good ones. Uh, like Attack on Titan, JJK, Demon Slayer. I'm naming all the really popular ones so that people can kind of, you know, if you're watching this and those are the only ones you've watched, you can still say, oh yeah, I know what you mean. Dragon Ball, whatever. Um, you had so many of those that it's like, can you definitively say that manga was the worst? I don't know. Light novels? I mean, I could understand that. Maybe you're like, a lot of light novel adaptations to anime are isekai. Not every one of them, but a lot of them are isekai. Some of that, you'll get as well some romance. Um, but yeah, tons of isekai. And maybe you don't like isekai. Maybe isekai is you perceive it to be a very weak genre. I don't blame you. But yeah, it's um hard to even say that as well, because I can think of a lot of isekai that are very popular, very highly rated, and whether I like them or not. Um, like you can't deny that a lot of people do like them. Like Sword Art Online was a light novel. Mushoku Tensei is a light novel. Those are examples of ones that I don't particularly like. But there's also like ReZero. There's also Konosuba. There's also I believe 86 is a non-isekai example. It's a mecha, but I think that was a light novel. Uh, I love those shows. And so, can I say that I think light novels were the worst? I don't think so. So then, what else is there? Like, there's anime originals like Madoka Magica, Code Geass. There's probably other examples, but those are the two main ones that I know. No, I mean those are some of the best. Like, yeah, I don't know. I think you'd have to get pretty deep in the weeds to find something that's like generally worse than video games. Um, like if you're saying like webtoons adaptations, and you're basically looking at Tower of God and the God of High School as like the flag bearers for that, um, which is I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Are web novels that much different than manga? I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Um, but yeah, I mean, I do think that there's like just a fundamental flaw with doing video games to anime, because like video games, one of like the point of them is that you play them at your own pace, that you interact with the elements of the game, and some of them are optional, but like that you get to choose that. And a lot of these games do have choices, right? Even Persona, you can choose who you want to date in that game. When you get to the anime, well, if Joker chooses to date somebody that you didn't or you wouldn't like as an option, or maybe you don't like dating any of the characters in Persona and you think that's weird, and but they do it anyway, or vice versa. If you think, oh, you should definitely date somebody, and they don't do that, and you're like, this isn't the way I would want to do this, like when I have control. So like, why do I like that? I don't know. Why would I like that? Yeah, I mean, I can't. I'm not going to deny that there aren't good video game anime out there, or like anime adapted from video game. My favorite romance is a Tale of Memories. That's a visual novel. I haven't played the visual novel. I wonder if I'd find it even better. I don't know. But I guess I would probably say agree, only, and probably strongly agree, only because I just can't bring myself to say that I think that manga, light novels, anime original are worse. I don't know. Uh, we'll move on. The musical anime genre is too female centric. Now, this is probably the like lowest response rate. I think there's only like maybe like one or two people who bothered to voice any opinion on this, and I kind of expected that because I don't think the musical genre is very uh, it's not very popular. Uh, it's to me the like you kind of have two sides of the musical genre. There's uh, your kind of like your K-On spin-off type, and then there like your slice of life with some music thrown in, and then there's your idol anime. Um, and I don't know how popular. I don't think that they're like particularly that popular. Those um, I did think it was an interesting question, and if you're somebody who loves musical anime, maybe take a moment to think about what you think about this question. But what I think about it is a, kind of close to the middle. Maybe I would slightly agree. Um, Female centric is a little vague. What do I mean by that? And I kind of phrased it this way to be intentionally vague. Um, you could look at it from the angle of the casts are too heavily female. Like, think about a lot of these shows, like idol shows, like K-On type shows, Bochi the Rock. Um, the cast is primarily female. Almost all the singers, all the musicians are female. They're like, I can't really think of too many shows or that I've watched where there's like a male musician and that the focus is on music. Given, which I have on the screen, is one that I've seen and that does have a lot of male musicians. Another one I've seen is Inuo, which is a movie, um, which is it's really insane. If you like Queen, you probably will like Inuo, which is really really strange because it has absolutely nothing to do with Queen. Um, but anyway, uh, from that perspective, like the whole idol genre, like yeah, I mean it's all women. So like, is that not extremely female centric? But you could look at it from another angle. Like, well, what about like the audience for the show? Take Bocchi the Rock. Bocchi the Rock is a shonen. The intended demographic is boys, younger boys. Like they're supposed to watch this because like it's cute girls and they're funny and the humor I guess is supposed to appeal to boys. Now I think that Bocchi does a really good job of playing to both sides. I know a lot of men who like it. I know a lot of women who like it. Um, but like fact of the matter is, it was published in a shonen magazine, so not Shonen Jump, I don't think, but a different one. Um, so like, can you really say that Bocchi is too female centric when it was kind of made with a male audience in mind? Look at these idol shows. Now, not as a lot of them are made for women, but some of them are, you know, they have some like B shoujo elements to it. It's pretty girls. And as a man who's straight, most likely, maybe you're kind of into watching that sort of thing. Maybe there's a Yuri element in your music show, and you're like, oh, like now I'm interested. uh, and like, is it fair to call that a female-centric show when it's kind of made for a male audience? I don't know. There's the opposite for Given. Given is a yaoi. It's a boys' love show. I mean, most of the characters are gay in it, uh, and which is supposed to be an element that's appealing to women. It's like a lot of like I imagine a lot of women are intended to watch this. Um, I don't know if I should say a lot of women. I imagine that the audience is primarily women. Um, but like so like that's a sort of a counterexample to like, oh well, a lot of these shows are made for men. Well, Given wasn't. Um, but then again, I do think that when you look at it from the angle of the characters in the show, yes, a lot of the musicians are women. Even in like, think about your boy Kong Ming. You do have Kabe Taijin, the rapper, who's male, and a lot of the rappers that are involved with him are male. You have Kong Ming, who's not really a musician, but you know he's male. And there are a couple other male bands, but the primary musicians, Aiko, the female lead, well, she's female, and like the idol group that she's going up against is all female as well. So there is a good mix of men and women musicians, but the most important ones are female. So I don't know. From that perspective, I think it is a little easy to see those shows as female-centric, but from the demographic perspective, it's a little muddier. Some do seem to be made with a male audience in mind, even if they have women characters, and some seem to be made with a female audience in mind, even if they have female characters. So I guess I'd go with slightly agree. I guess I'd be more interested to see what all the Love Live fans think, or I don't know what the other big idol show is. All the Zombieland Saga fans. Yeah. we'll go on to this next one, and I do have some openings or music on here. I'm not going to play it because I don't know how YouTube would like that. Uh, but the statement is OP1 is generally the most important song in an anime. Um, for the sake of grounding the discussion, I consider anime to have three different types of songs. The opening, which is the song that plays at the beginning of almost every episode, that like it's your the day from My Hero Academia, Garang from Demon Slayer, uh, uh, Vivid Vice from Jujutsu Kaisen, like like where it's not exactly related to the show. You if you're a Netflix watcher, you might just it's where it says skip intro. That's what the opening is. There's the ending, which is the song that plays after the show is like the episode is complete, and it has like all the credits in it. Um, and then there are inserts, which are songs that will play in the middle of the show to highlight scenes, or maybe a character's literally singing the song. Um, yeah. Uh, what I so when I say OP1, I mean the first opening for a show. Um, so you could take this from a couple different angles, right? You could say, like, if you're gonna disagree with this, right? You could say, oh, actually, inserts are the most important because they're the ones that play in the show, and I skip openings and endings, so those inserts are the only ones I actually hear. So, and yeah, if you're that kind of person, I could see why you would think that way. Um, or you could even say inserts are the most important because they highlight the moments that like really matter in the show, like the All Might's theme playing when he hits the United States of Smash. Like that's a really important moment in My Hero Academia, and like the music that plays there, it highlights that moment, like, and so that makes it really that like it adds to the mystique of that scene. Um, there are plenty of other examples, but I'll move on. Um, if you might want to say the ending is the most important because it uh, kind of shows where the characters are going uh, at the end. It a lot of times I think that the ending fits the theme of the show better. Think about like Full Metal Alchemist. Uh, that first opening again, it's a great song, and the opening is really good animation, and it does foreshadow a lot of the things that happen in the arc that it plays for. Um, but the ending, to me, it kind of it matches the tone of the show better. You have Ed losing his arm and his leg, and he gets the automail arm, and it's all about him moving forward. He's running with Alphonse. Uh, it highlights Winry more, where she's like she's quite important in the first arc or so of Full Metal because she grounds those two, um, and a lot of endings I think are like that. Some of them not so much. Sometimes you'll get like a slideshow type ending. Uh, uh, the one for me is the first ending of JoJo's Part 5, Freakin' You. I mean, it's just a slideshow of all the characters going by. And how much does Freakin' You fit the vibe of that part? I don't know. Frankly, not that much. I think Gangster's Paradise would have been insane for that, but um, so maybe you're saying the endings aren't that great, and I do think that the endings are the most commonly skipped because you get a cliffhanger ending uh, to the episode. Are you gonna sit through a 90-second ending before you hit play the next episode? No, probably not. So yeah. Uh, Endings are quite underrepresented. Uh, Openings. So openings, I think, do hold a lot of the identity of the show. When you think of, if I told you, think of a Demon Slayer song, you, even if you skip the openings generally, you're probably you probably are like, okay, I could maybe think of like a character theme. I could maybe think of like some background music, maybe, but it's Garang, right? You're like, if I just said think of one song, Garang is probably the first one you're thinking of. If you don't know what that is, you should. If you don't know what Garang is, and you've watched Demon Slayer, you maybe like go look it up real quick to give yourself a little refresher. And like you're gonna know it almost immediately, I would bet, because like these are so integral to the identity. Um, you go on like TikTok or whatever where they're doing like anime stuff, they have some music in the background. It's probably an opening because they're really recognizable. Um, you know, you like Attack on Titan. I say think about an Attack on Titan song. You're probably going bum ba dum ba da dum ba da dum bum. Yeah, you know. Sorry for subjecting you to my singing there. Um, like and that motif there, it's synonymous with Attack on Titan. Um, yeah, I mean I don't know, but then again, Attack on Titan's got some crazy inserts too. Like when super crazy moment is about to happen, that one with that woman belting out that, I think it's Latin, it might be French. Uh, it's insane. Um, yeah, you could also come from an angle. OP2 might be more important to the identity. Think about like Mashal, for example. The first opening, Knockout, is great. I love that opening. But Bling Bang Born by Creepy Nuts, I mean, that blew up like crazy. It might have like 100 million views on YouTube, uh, and like not even including like all the re-uploads of it that have millions of views. It's You might not have seen Mashal. You probably know Bling Bang Born though, if you're like a modern anime fan who's active. Uh, like so maybe maybe OP1 isn't always the most like important for the identity of a show. Maybe you're thinking you think of Masher, you think of Bling Bang Born, which is OP2. Um, Maybe for Demon Slayer, maybe the first song you didn't think of Garang, the first opening. Maybe you thought of the Entertainment District opening. Um, I don't know. Um, that this all being said, what do I think? I think generally, yes, OP1 is the most important because again, it tends to be the most recognizable. It tends to be the one that like grounds the identity of the show. You're like you're when you have to think of whatever it is that you have to think of. um, and you have to think of music with it, you're thinking of that first opening usually. I think that the one notable exception is music anime. Uh, when I think of, if I thought of Love Live, I don't know the Love Live openings. I couldn't know them off the top of my head. But I know Snow Halation, which is an insert song, right? Um, when I think of Given, I like that opening. But the song that Mafuyu sings at the end, oops, spoiler, sorry. That like that's probably more impactful, more core to the identity of that show. When I think of your boy Kong Ming, as much as I love Chicky Chicky Bon Bon, I also love some of the inserts that they sing. Um, Azalea's song is really like I really like that, and the song that Aiko sings uh, in the last episode there, or maybe second to last episode, also very important. Like when the show is about music, it totally makes sense that the inserts are gonna matter. A Fua Fua Time from K-On! Sorry. uh, yeah, the yeah, like you would want to save the best music for the show because you know that's what I'm coming to the show to watch is some music. Um, so yeah, I definitely see the exception there. However, that's one particular genre that's quite a small portion of the pie here. And I would say for almost every other genre, that opening is like the most important one. There are definitely a lot of anime out there where they have a decent opening and they have like nothing burger inserts. Like it's just like it might as well be like elevator music, right? It doesn't like it's extremely innocuous. It doesn't matter. And for those shows, uh, well, how are you going to argue that OP1 is not the most important? It's like basically the only song. So I guess I'll be on strongly agree for this one if I'm taking a side there. With noting that caveat that for music anime, that's not true. But every other one, I would say it's generally true. Yeah, there's maybe a handful of exceptions. My Hero Academia, you say Run is probably more core to that show's identity because anytime that plays, Deku's going off. He's going crazy. um, but yeah, and no hate to these endings as well. I love Lost in Paradise as a song, but for Jujutsu Kaisen, but yeah. Oh, sorry, that was a little embarrassing. I was trying not to play anything, but there you go. All right, the next one I have is the modern day big three are Demon Slayer, My Hero Academia, and Jujutsu Kaisen. Yeah, I was talking a lot about those shows in previous ones, and that's kind of to gauge whether this would be a worthwhile question to ask. It was, because yeah, everybody was a normie and they knew this. Well, I'm not okay. They were not normies, but they know what normies like. So good on them. Yeah, so I guess first we have to discuss what Big Three is, and this is what a lot of the discussion on this was. What constitutes a Big Three? Is it the three most popular anime? Is it the three best anime? Is it the three anime whose manga have the best sales? Is it the three anime that people are likely to watch as their first anime? And like, there's not a ton of consensus on that. I mean, a lot of people have a consensus that the big three or Generation 1 big three was Naruto, Bleach, and One Piece. There was a little bit of a discussion about, well, why is Dragon Ball not considered one of the big three? And the answer was Dragon Ball transcends the big three, which is a really base take. I love that take actually. That it's bigger than the big three. Yeah, but in any case, one of the I'll borrow what one of the people at my panel said that well, you talk about the big three of Naruto, One Piece, and Bleach. One of the reasons why we consider those is like when anime was the first wave of anime getting big in the West, those were the three shows that people were watching. Those were the three shows that had like the most popular dubs, generally speaking. Um, like maybe Dragon Ball Z as well, but like that also came out a few years earlier, a few years before anime's like first quote unquote mainstream appeal. Um, But yeah, the like that early 2000s era there, you definitely had you definitely had those three as being like the forefront of what anime was big in the West. And as for what was big in Japan, I'm not sure. Maybe Japanese audiences would consider a different big three, or maybe they don't make a distinction about a big three. They're like, how could you limit it to three? Or maybe like what generation would be considered like a big three could be different, right? Maybe you could argue like it's like Astro Boy, Gigantomachia, and Journey to the West, the first adaptation of that. Those were the big three of anime in Japan. I don't know. I mean, this is speculation. I probably shouldn't speculate on that because I don't know what I'm talking about. But uh, as far as uh, the modern day version of that, I think most people were in agreement that these would be the three. Um, I think any really dissension would be like, is there even really a big three anymore? Um, I sort of thought of the big three as like gateway anime. That's kind of how I thought about it. Like, somebody like if you're watching an anime as your first anime, um, then most likely, and if you and like if this was like I don't know, late 2000s, early 2010s, whatever, most likely it was Naruto, Bleach, or One Piece. Or you could even say like maybe if that wasn't your first one, maybe it was like the first one where you were like, okay, I want to watch more anime, more like specifically more anime, not just, oh, I heard about the story of this show, like Cowboy Bebop or Haruhi or whatever it is you're gonna watch, and I thought that sounded interesting. I'm gonna watch it, and you watched it, but with the conception of it's a TV show. But now you're like, okay, I am a weeb, so I want to watch more anime. What anime should I watch next? And it was one of the big three, right? That's what probably what was recommended, and maybe what you watch next. That's the gateway there. Uh, that's how I always conceived of it. Not everybody else thought that way. One person, like again, one person said that it was like a manga sales thing. Like if you go back to like the year 2000 or so, what we consider the big three here, Bleach, One Piece, Naruto, they had the highest manga sales from Shonen Jump. Um, and I was like, that's an interesting thought because I knew that Demon Slayer actually does have the highest Shonen Jump sales. I think My Hero is second. Jujutsu Kaisen, I'm not sure. Um, so if that's the definition you want to go by, and it does so happen that Jujutsu Kaisen is third in manga sales, uh, which I would believe that. Then yeah, that could work. But also, you could say like, well, why does it have to be Shonen Jump in particular? Like, what about like seinen manga like Berserk? Like, if Berserk happened to outsell one of these three, then would we not consider it one of the big three? I don't know. Um, but in any case, yeah, I mean, I would also probably have to agree with this one. I'd probably say strongly agree because like what else would you argue? Um, from any perspective, Gateway, yeah, Demon Slayer, My Hero, JJK, those are very commonly the recommendations for new anime fans today. They're very commonly people's first anime. Not I don't think a lot of people have a lot of different first anime. My first anime was Soul Eater. That's not no big nothing. I mean it's not an unpopular show, but like to say it's in a big whatever is also not gonna be true. But yeah, like yeah, I imagine a lot of if you became an anime fan within the last like 5 years, I imagine that you probably watched one of these shows as your one of your first 10 anime. Um, and uh, as for them being like the most popular, like we can go back to that my anime list thing. I'm not going to, but or the Annie list as well. Yeah, like I all three of these were on the Annie list's top 5 most popular. And I don't know how many. I don't think any of them were in Mal's because the Mal is old. The freaking millennials using Mal. But yeah, I mean they're all of them are in the top 20. I'm certain about that. Um, and a lot of and they're decently rated as well. Especially JJK, it's got some good ratings. So by most criteria, I think they would fit. Uh, there are some I might entertain the idea of, like Attack on Titan, because yeah, it did feel really big, and if and it was coming out concurrently with some of these shows. It predated its first season predated a lot of them, but like it was. I think some arguments against that as well. It's over now, so uh, it's hard to call a show that is like over a part of a generation of big three with shows that are still going. Um, and like yeah, it did, and yeah, its first season did come out quite a bit earlier than the rest of them. I think like its second season predates JJK and Demon Slayer. So I don't know. Maybe it is like the Dragon Ball to these ones where it's like it's just bigger than that. I could believe that. Um, any other any other show that's coming out in this realm, like of like the 2015 to now, like I just can't think of any that like have as wide an appeal or as popular with kids or getting people into anime. Um, yeah, I couldn't think of anything else really. Um, so yeah, I think that it's got to be, even by default, I'd say it had to be these three. So yeah, unless you're gonna argue that there is no big three right now, or ever, then yeah, I could see that take as well. It's like, you know, well, a lot of anime fans maybe they're not. Maybe you're not the anime fan who's watching just whatever is popular. Maybe you only watch whatever happens to be on Netflix. And I don't know if any of these are on Netflix right now. I haven't checked in a while, so I don't know. Or maybe you only watch whatever your boyfriend or girlfriend or bestie puts you onto, and their taste is not this. So you'd be like, I don't really vibe with these because I haven't even watched any of them. So how can I call them a big three? I don't know. I haven't watched any of the original big three. So, but then again, I guess I was in a generation after they were all did their thing. So, um, cut me some slack. I think this is the final one here. The best decade for anime. I've split it up into the 90s or earlier, which, yeah, that encompasses a lot of decades, but also the frequency at which anime came out was a lot lower prior to the 2000s. The 2000s probably have less than what's coming out now, frankly, but in any case, so yeah, the 90s was even less than that, and 80s and 70s and 60s, like way less. Plus, I figured that most people were probably in similar age to me, so got into anime probably in the 2010s. or slightly older, so maybe got into it in the 2000s. So I imagined that 90s was not gonna be super popular, and it wasn't. There was somebody there who was like, "Yes, I love Gundam. I watched a lot of the Gundam that came out in the 90s," and even he said a different decade, um, which there you go. So sorry, Lum. No, there's no respect for you. Everybody said, Lum, I thought she was from the 2020s. And that's that, and there you go. That's just the world we live in now. 2000s, there was a lot of support actually for 2000s being the best, and I totally get the arguments for it. Like, people said, well, anime that came out then, like, you had to pick and choose the things that you thought were going to be popular based on like their manga, based on like the tastes or whatever. So they were a bit more selective with what actually got made. I think that is true to an extent. However, I think that survivorship bias kind of plays into that. So there's a little bit of there might be maybe a little bit of a fallacy in that take. Um, we remember shows like Lucky Star and Haruhi and Code Geass and Naruto and what a bunch of other shows that came out in the 2000s. But like, if I went back and picked a random show from the 2000s, there is probably a way less chance that you've heard of that than if I picked a random show that came out today. Like here, I'm on spring 2024 in my anime list right now, and I'm scrolling down to the bottom, and or like, I don't know. Like, have you heard of a show called The New Gate? Probably not, but maybe, maybe God's Game We Play. Have you heard of that? I don't know. Probably not, but maybe. Uh, Level 2, or what's it called? Chilling in Another World with Level 2 super cheat powers? Oh shit, I need to watch that. Um, no, you probably haven't, but like, maybe. But if I go back to the archive and I pull up 2000, let's go with spring 2006. And the most popular of this season was Oran High School Host Club. So yeah, people have heard of that. Gintama, yeah, people have heard of that. Black Lagoon, yeah, people have heard of that. Haruhi, Higurashi, Nana. Dang, this is a stacked season. But if I go down to like similar to where those were, Witchblade. You ever heard of Witchblade? The story of Sai Unkoku? I don't know. I haven't heard of that. We're getting like, yeah. Well, although Digimon's down here though, so I don't know. Maybe I picked a bad season to make this point. I don't know. If I go like, let's go like fall 2005. Mushishi. Yeah, I mean, people probably heard of that. But then the next one is Shakugan no Shana Season 1. I've not heard of that. I mean, it has quite a good number of members on Mal, so maybe that's just me. Blood Plus or Blood Cross. I'm not sure how you would say that. I haven't heard of that. Maybe you have. I don't know. Hellgirl. I think I may have heard of that. These are like the most popular from this. I'm going in order of like the most popular ones. Black Cat. I've not heard of that. Paradise Kiss. I think I have heard of that actually. Karin. I have not heard of this. Aria the animation. I've not heard of this. Rosen Maiden. I've not heard of this. So it's like, is the average quality of show from the 2000s actually better, or is it because we're not thinking of La Mune? What is this? I've never heard of that. But we are thinking about Mushishi because it was super popular. It endured. I go back to summer 2005. Shuffle? What is Shuffle? That was the most popular thing this season. And I know seasonal anime wasn't really a thing back then, so maybe it's a little bit of a moot point, but like, at least as far as my anime list is concerned, Shuffle is the most popular show from summer 2005. Nobody's heard of that. Gun X Sword? Who's heard of that? I'm like, No offense to all the fans of these that happen to be there. But then I go back on another one, Eureka 7. Like, okay, I've heard of that one. Honey and Clover, I've heard of that one. So some of them endure, right? And some of them just they don't. Um, but then you go to like the current season, and yeah, there's similar things gonna happen. Like in 10 years, is anybody gonna remember Go Go Lose Your Ranger? I don't know. Maybe, but also maybe not. But in any case, the other take that I heard for the 2000s that I do kind of vibe with is, well, look at the shows that are coming out now or in the 2010s, and you can draw a lot of comparisons to the shows that came out in the 2000s. If you look at like a grade school or high school slice of life comedy show, can you not feel Lucky Star's influence on it or Haruhi's influence on it? The tropes that like the types of characters you see, the tropes there within those characters. Tsundere, yeah, I mean Tsundere's kind of existed in the they existed in the 90s, so like it's, you can't necessarily credit that, but like a lot of other like plot points and such. How about Naruto? How many characters in other shonen shows that you've seen have a Naruto Sasuke type dynamic where they're friends, rivals at the same time? And yes, I know that Naruto's not the first one to come up with this, but like the way that they did it is pretty recognizable, and a lot of these shows are likely to copy that. Um, I may not have all the best examples just offhand like this, but um, I do totally see what people are saying. Now, I do think that that's also the case for the 90s. Like, every mecha is, I feel like almost every mecha is derivative of Gundam, which I think came out in the 80s as well. But a lot of mecha shows were in the 90s as well, like Neon Genesis Evangelion. A lot of the Gundam. What else? I'm blanking. Was Full Metal Panic in the 90s? I'm not sure. And any mecha that comes out now will obviously has the DNA of those shows in them. So you could say, like, without those shows that we saw in those decades, so like, how are we going to get what we have now? Which I think is a valid point. There's definitely something to be said there, but there's also something to be said that we're perfecting the art. The 2010s, there were a lot of shows here that fundamentally changed the genres that they were in. I think Attack on Titan is a great example. Like the flesh mecha genre that we see in Kaiju number 8. Sorry. But like the type of action that we expect in a modern day show, the bar was raised because of Attack on Titan. I think that's a fair statement. Isekai. Sword Art Online changed Isekai. It really did. Like, there's so many fantasy setting, video game elements, young boy who was unremarkable in the real world and becomes super duper powerful because he understands the game mechanics of the world that he's in. So many isekai are like that. Is Sword Art Online the first to do that? No. I think Log Horizon beat it out, and I'm sure that there were isekai that existed before. But because Sword Art Online was so popular, so many other writers were inspired by it. Madoka Magica. Magical Girl shows before Madoka Magica were about like they were like Sailor Moon, right? Save the day by moonlight, go to school during the day, um, and like they're basically superheroes. After Madoka Magica, a lot of Magical Girl anime are horror inspired. It's about they feel more like war stories than they do about like superhero stories, and that's something that came out in the 2010s. A lot of rom-coms. Well, a lot of rom-coms came out in like the late 2000s, like Toradora, Haruhi, that I think did inspire some of the ones that came out in the early 2010s as well. Maybe, also maybe not though, because it may have been written contemporaneously, so hard to say. But there maybe there's an element of, well, Toradora was popular, so let's greenlight another show in the 2010s that continues this chain that we see now. But yeah, a lot of the most popular shows of today even came out into the 2010s or late 2000s. Full Metal Alchemist was 2009. Attack on Titan 2013. Sword Art Online 2012. One Punch Man 2015. JJK 2019, I think. So like there's a ton of good stuff there. And in 2020s, I think the animation has glowed up significantly in the past like 5 years. And so I think the best looking shows that have come out really recently. And a lot of shows, there are a lot of shows that are derivative and kind of feel like cash grabs that suck. And this is what the isekai genre is dealing with. I'm not saying every isekai is like that, but there are a lot that are basically, there's not really much of a concept to them. It's just, well, it's worked for other people, so let's see if it could work for us. And there's like, that's kind of it. But there are also shows that are really pushing the boundaries. I think we are seeing some of the craziest stuff that you've ever seen. You like, I don't know, Bocchi the Rock for one, right? Like, have we seen a show about how many times have we seen a show about like a shy girl forming a rock band? It's probably been done before, but with having the same success and staying power as Bocchi the Rock, I'm not sure. Shows like I'm sort of blanking, I'll be honest. Frieren, right, blew up like crazy. I would not be shocked if we saw tons of fantasy shows, especially with elf main characters, in the next couple years because of Frieren. And yeah, it is hard to say what the impact of the 2020s will be because we're not even halfway done with it. So there's still a lot of time for this decade to make a lot of headway or not make a lot of headway. I do think one thing, if you're going to talk about anime, not for the anime that came out, but like what has happened to the community of anime, COVID, I think, kind of accelerated the growth of anime, at least as a community in the West. It's made it more mainstream because we were all stuck indoors. We didn't have shit to do. What were we going to do? We're going to watch TV. Or rather, we're not going to watch TV because nobody has a television anymore. We're going to watch we're gonna stream things online, and it's like, well, you can only watch Breaking Bad so many times. You can only watch Game of Thrones so many times. What am I gonna do now? Well, there was this show that somebody recommended to me that was an anime, and I watched that, and then I find out, oh crap, there's like thousands of other anime. I'm gonna have stuff to watch forever, uh, and people got into anime, and like, yeah, tons of people got into anime over COVID, uh, and now anime is more mainstream than it's ever been. You can go into a store that has nothing to do with anime, and you're gonna see anime merchandise. Um, would you have seen that 5 years ago? Maybe. 10 years ago? Probably not. 20 years ago? Definitely not. Um, yeah, so there's definitely something to be said on that front. For me, I would probably go with the 2010s personally, because I do think that there's so many like landmark shows came out in that era, whether I like them or not, that it's hard to deny. I think it seemed like there was a lot of people in favor of the 2000s at my panel, actually. Um, maybe, people are super tapped into like all those slice of life shows that came out. Maybe people are super tapped into the big three, where most of their runtime was in the 2000s. Yeah, One Piece came out in like what, 98, 99 originally, but like most of its episodes are in the 2000s. Well, actually, I don't know if most of them are, but a good chunk of them are. They slowed down a little bit after in the 2010s and whatever. There's also like, maybe if you're not a big fan of like this seasonal format, you like to have a show come all the way out, and you want to watch some things that are a little longer, not split up into a bunch of seasons. The 2000s was like the last hurrah for that. Soul Eater, 52 episodes. If it came out today, that would be split into maybe 3 or 4 seasons. You are not going to get 52 continuous episodes. In the 2000s, you basically did. They probably took breaks from airing, but not like a whole seasonal break. And yeah, there's also, I think a lot of people have a nostalgia about like the mystique of anime back then, where it felt like a secret, like you go to old anime clubs that existed in the 2000s. It's like some people who are like really, really into this stuff, because you had to be really, really into this stuff to even know about it, basically. Um, like the average person was not watching Lucky Star back in the day. The average person probably is watching My Hero Academia, or has probably watched or heard of it. Uh, even if they're not actively watching it today. Um, and I agree. I do have a bit of a nostalgia for that. And I didn't even grow up as an anime fan then. Yes, I grew up in the 2000s, but I did not grow up as an anime fan. I grew up as an anime fan in the 2010s, right? So, but I like, yeah, I felt, I did feel like, oh, like, you know, people know about this enough to hate on it in the 2010s, but not necessarily enough to just like tolerate or actually be like into it like it is nowadays, which there's a lot of positive in that, but there is a little bit of a mystique to like, oh, it's almost like a speakeasy thing from the 2000s that is a little bit like it's easy to romanticize. um so yeah, I mess with the 2000s take. I like a lot of shows that came out in the 2000s. Like Code Geass is my favorite show. First season 2006, second season 2008. So yeah. It's also the decade when Pokemon was the best. Don't at me about that. But um, no, I mean the games, not the anime, but whatever. Uh, yeah. If you have watched all the way through this, all I don't know how many people would actually bother. Like, we'll be generous to myself and say 4 people watch this. Uh, I'd love to hear your thoughts about some of this. You could post a YouTube comment if you want to engage more directly with me. You can join my Discord. Um, if you fell asleep, uh, that's fine because I still get the watch time. And yeah, I hope to do something like this again. If I go do more conventions, more panels, and they're good to discuss like this, I'd love to share again. Um, but don't expect anything too regular with that, because yeah, I think I just kind of want to post videos when I feel like making them. So uh, yeah, thank you for watching if you did, and I hope to be in the mood to make another one of these.